r/Askreddit. Serious parents who regret having children. How do you cope? I love my kids with every part of me, and they are my entire life. I don't regret having them. I regret the dysfunctional behavior of everyone else involved in their life. I had my first son when I was 20, pregnant at 19. I had severe PND, and I worked hard to overcome it. My ex did not give a fuck, and would tease me about being mental. This was the beginning of a very long campaign of domestic abuse that became progressively worse. It took me years to escape. I was determined to finish my first degree. I finished that and had my second at 21. The market crashed, and it became clear that my ex had no intention of financially supporting the family or emotionally/practically supporting us. I worked full-time, looked after the kids and house whilst doing a master's in a professional services field with high earning potential. At 24, my ex had threatened to murder me 3 times in 3 months. I escaped, but the police couldn't do anything. My eldest son was experiencing childhood trauma. I had really bad advice from a solicitor who said that there was no point in pursuing protective orders. He continued to see the kids every 2 weeks under supervision, and the abuse continued, although with limited access. At 27, I found bruises on my eldest son, and on the advice of a new solicitor I made the decision to cease contact and let things run its course through court. He didn't apply for contact through court for 2 years, and the first hearing is on Monday. Within 6 months of no contact, my son's childhood trauma behavior had cleared up, and he has been on track with his peers since. Unfortunately, because of my work pursuing a career, it's now unlikely that I'll get legal aid because of my salary, which is on the bottom rung of a qualified professional, so enough to live okay, but not enough to pay the grotesque solicitor's fees. I won't stop though, and I'll pay any price to protect my kids. I seriously broke my leg in a climbing accident, and he kidnapped them whilst the doctors weren't sure if I would keep my leg or be able to walk again. Thankfully, after 2 weeks I got them back, and my leg is at about 75% after 2 years of recovery. My youngest son has now been diagnosed with ADHD. Before that, no matter what I did, I couldn't help his behavior. It was minute by minute trauma and exhaustion. He's effectively medicated now, and this is changing, but it was extremely difficult, and he was excluded from school twice whilst undiagnosed. At 29, my parents, who are evangelical Christian dysfunctional narcissists, discovered that I was bisexual and in a healthy relationship with a woman. They changed sides and sued me for contact. They ended up dropping the case because they didn't have one and paying my fees, but it was a terrible 9 months. I feel that, even though at parts of this, I've not wanted to exist anymore, I can see that the reason I have lived through this is to protect my kids. What's cracked me would break them, and I'm happy to be cracked, if that's what it takes. I have been surviving through this awful experience. I have amazing kids, a great partner and good future earning potential, so I'm looking to the future. It's a 10-year plan, but I'm going to get everyone through this. Watch this space. I'm quite conflicted about it, honestly. It's almost like I'm bipolar with my feelings about having her. I never wanted kids. Always had that maybe when I'm older thought. So when my GF got pregnant, I spent most of those 9 months in denial. When she was born, though, I fell in love. Instant click of I made this, and I love her. Thing is, my relationship with her mother slowly went downhill after our daughter was born. To the point where mom relapsed on opiates and eventually cheated on me. I kept trying to make it work because I wanted our daughter to have a proper family, and because I stupidly still loved my ex who wasn't an ex yet. In the past few years I've had my heart ripped out by my ex, but partly patched up by my daughter. I feel like an asshole for feeling this way, and it's not a constant feeling, but there's definitely a lot of times where I feel like if my daughter had never been born I would be in a better place. Mentally, financially, emotionally, just better. Before she was born I was happier and more content and satisfied with my life than I ever have been. I was looking forward to marrying my ex. I was actually looking at engagement rings when I found out she was pregnant. Now I feel like I've been through the ringer. I'm stuck living with my ex because she hid having a secret new boyfriend until we moved in together. She's never home, so I'm basically a single dad, and I feel terribly alone. I can't drive, so I'm usually just stuck at the house with our kid, trapped in my own negativity. I'm usually not alone, but I sure feel like it. I feel like I've had this kid dumped on me while some other guy gets to enjoy being with the love of my life. It fucking sucks, because I know I shouldn't feel that way. I should know that I'm better off without someone who is willing to lie and cheat and disrespect me like that. I just miss what I had and want my daughter to have the same kind of amazing family that I did. I don't know how to let go and just appreciate what I have. I have moments of that feeling, but that's about it. Sometimes I'll be snuggling with my kid and she tells me she loves me and I'll just melt with happiness and know how perfect she is. Then I look at her face that is so much of her mother's and long for what was lost. Fuck, now I'm just rambling and getting more miserable. I really hope these feelings can be worked through once I can move out of here and try to restart my own life with just me and my daughter. Edit. Thanks to all who offered words of comfort and encouragement. I know I'm on the right track to build a better life for myself and my daughter. All just a matter of time now. And to the dude encouraging people to dox me, would you kindly go fuck yourself with a rusty spike? I never wanted children, but abusive circumstances kind of chose this path for me. I only regret having a child because I'm now left alone to do the work of both parents, and I know I will fail. Coupled with the abuse and mental fuck-uppery left on me by the child's father, I feel like I'm doing such a poor job. I cope by being patient. I work as hard as I can. I sometimes play video games to de-stress, but I try to make it easier on myself by teaching my child to be kind and helpful. Kids are smarter than people think. Sometimes I just cry. I know I'm not good enough. We don't have a lot of money. Times are tough. I don't have medical care, so really, all I can do is cry. But I never let my kid see it. He doesn't need my anxiety and worries put onto him, because he doesn't deserve that. He deserves to be a kid. Treat others how you want to be treated is how I want to raise this child. That is why I answer his questions in a way he understands. I tell him the truth, even if it sucks, but I tell him that it will be okay, because it will be okay, eventually. I'm not perfect, and it sucks. But if it's my job to raise this small person, all I can do is my best, and it helps me to improve myself too. If my child is a reflection of myself, I want to be the best parent I can be. Edit. Thank you to every single person who replied. I've never had more kind, overwhelmingly positive responses. The truth is, I have days where I can't even get up in the morning. Kiddo has become accustomed to me being sick. It can take me days to muster the courage to leave the house. I make sure, as much as I can, that kiddo gets out to be social, goes to birthday parties, and other things that kids do, but some days I just can't. I'm not a good parent, but I'd like to be, and it gives me a bit of happiness to know that others might think I am, even if they only see a small part of the picture. At best, I feel like I'm a passable parent, though I hope that one day I will be able to look at all these kind comments and think, yes, I'm a good parent. Again, thank you so much. Edit 2. Whoever gifted me gold, thank you so much. I apologize for a post so full of self-loathing. I don't mean to sound so negative. I have never felt so encouraged. Everyone leaving comments, suggestions, and sharing their own personal experiences. Thank you. I have read every single reply, and I'm starting to feel a little differently about myself. I honestly have no idea what else to say other than thank you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I wish I could give every single one of you a big hug, or a solemn, strong, heartfelt handshake, if you don't like hugs. Thank you. I try to get into other activities in the house. Cleaning, taking out trash, getting out of the house, etc. If the wife is watching him, I'm cleaning something up. Also, the grandparents love him to death and they love watching him while we do, or go someplace else. You have to keep yourself busy, that's not child related. You need self-care and self-preservation. Leave the kid with grandparents or relatives for a while to refresh yourself. I know of a couple that just took their first time away from their kid when he was 3. Fuck that. You need to have a balance. That being said, it's hard to maintain the house when you're fucking exhausted. People say you're never ready for kids. I sure as fuck wasn't. Just the prenatal appointments, combined with the hospital stay for the birth, was over $10,000 if you don't have insurance, or about $970 if you have it. Raising children is fucking difficult, very expensive, time consuming, and wears you down. It's not for everyone, and not everyone is cut out to be a parent, which is fine. I think society's expectations eventually got to me, but I can't see myself having more children. The household in the marriage is testy because of my kid. The house always feels dirty because he runs around and making a mess of things, and I'm trying my best to clean up after him. Toys, baby food, bottles, etc. are all over the place. I'm just now getting my body back into shape because I'm sick of looking at myself in the mirror and I don't want dad bod. It's even more stressful when you're trying to get a hold of your kid and he just suddenly acts up in public by tossing food around, having a meltdown, or just doesn't listen. My parents told me I'm too sensitive about it, but they probably forgot how it was to deal with toddlers at that stage. At times, Wiffy will say something about another kid. We are fucking struggling now, how can we manage another? I'm this close on getting snipped, cause I can't go through this again, to be honest. It's not his fault. I didn't think parenting would be this fucking hard. I often find myself thinking what the fuck I got myself into, and how my life would be different if I wasn't married with a kid. All I can do is be the best dad I can be. I just hate this toddler stage. It's just hard, man. Your sex life tanks. You're paying out of the ass for childcare and you barely get anything back on that from your taxes. Sleep is a luxury. Spouse and yourself get into it over dumb shit. You have to attend parenting events, even though they're awful and loud, and other things that happen. I just hate society's expectations that you need to have a child. You don't. You really don't. Live with a toddler for a week if you don't have kids, and you'll see it for yourself. Edit. Thank you all for the kind responses. I always thought that I felt alone like this. I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels this way either. Don't get me wrong, I love my kid. It's just hard to handle things in life, that's all. I never wanted kids. I was always afraid I wouldn't be good at it because I'm a perfectionist and only tolerate people who do what I think is right. I know that is twisted, and I struggle with it constantly. Everyone always said I would be a great dad, and that it would be a shame to miss out on the experience. My then girlfriend wanted kids. She had a knack for training and discipline, and for the first time in my life, I could see having a child with her. I thought our child would be disciplined and well behaved, not like most kids. We got married and got pregnant 6 months later. Kid arrived. It has been over 2 years. He is a kid probably like any other. Whines, cries, screams, resists, tests limits and tries to figure out how the world works. But the normal childish behavior drains all feeling I have for him. I feel like a monster. I hate myself. And I dread being around him because it leads to more of me hating myself. I dread my life. I keep thinking it will get better, but it doesn't. He gets older, and I expect more of him. There is a constant gap, which triggers my dislike. And the mother turned out to be great at training and discipline with everything else but her child. With him, she is soft and indulging. His behavior is significantly worse when she is around, which makes me want to avoid family time. Weekends are the worst. That makes me feel bad about myself also. What is ironic is I wasn't particularly happy before all of this. I never thought I would get married because I had never been in a relationship that made me happy. Then I met my now wife. I liked her. I liked myself around her. I was more effective. I felt more mature. I was happy with my performance. I finally felt normal. When contemplating kids, I remember thinking, you were wrong about never finding the right person to marry. You are probably also wrong about not having kids. Take the leap of faith. Be bold. Live. Grow. As a normally cautious person, I now feel really stupid for taking that risk and going against my instinct. The consequences of being wrong were too much to risk. Now I have to live with it. I frequently think, you are having a nightmare. Just wake up. I try to hide it as well as I can, hoping something will change. But I realize it may come to the point where I'm doing more harm by sticking around than by removing myself from the situation. There are just as many days I feel like I've made a horrible mistake as there are days I realize I've forgotten what it's like to be child free. There are things that I really just did not think about when I was on the fence about having kids, and I wonder if had I known them, would it have pushed me in the direction of not having any? Cost is no understatement. Formula is expensive. Daycare is so very beyond expensive that it's not even worth saying expensive, because that word hardly does justice to the cost of full-time daycare. You literally cannot afford a full-time daycare on the average salary of a single parent in my area. Forget it. I don't know how single parents manage to even have a job with children too young for public school. We don't have parents available, so we are pretty much on our own in every respect. I truly feel for any single parent trying to raise a child in America with the cost of daycare. The second worst thing is illness. You will get sick. You will get so sick, sicker than you're used to being, and you'll have to continue the daily routine, because there is literally no such thing as a sick day to stay in bed when you're the primary parent at home. You only get to sleep when they sleep, if they sleep. Otherwise, you're on duty. So, get ready for puking your guts out in between feeding and putting kids down for naps, because that's your life now. Finally, freedom. I haven't hung out with my friends in months. I've lost track of many of them, and the ones I do still keep in touch with I do by text or on social media. I get snippets of time to myself, just very brief opportunities to type something on social media or in a text before I'm needed to change my 1-year-old son's diaper or to help my almost 3-year-old sit on the toilet and pretend to pee. To all of you out there who regret this, I feel you. I really do. I send all my love and compassion to you, because I know what this is like. I'm just constantly treading water in the waves of this ocean, along this imaginary line of buoys, drifting between this being the best thing and this being the absolute worst thing I've ever done in my life. But then my little girl calls down every morning to me, "Dada," and she always keeps pulling me back to this being the best thing I've ever done. Loving my children is my coping mechanism. Holding my son and rocking him at 2 or 3 AM because he's teething and hurting, and the only thing that soothes him is being held and rocked by his dad. I just try to hold on to the moments as best as I can and shake the negativity whenever I feel it creeping in. My daughter accidentally kneed me in the tenders tonight before her bath. Wow, it hurt for about an hour and a half, but her hugs get stronger each night at bedtime before she kisses me on the cheek and says, "I miss you, boy." So I'm feeling mildly better. We're all adrift in this ocean, and I think part of us as parents, forgive me for speaking for you, if this just ain't you, will always regret what we lose of our former lives. I know there's so much I'll miss, but I just hope I'm not alone in the sentiment that there are those special daily moments with your children that you just want to experience forever. That's how I cope. I'll find out in a month and a half, I guess. In the meantime I've just been depressed and hopeless. I'm 24 BTW. I mean, my life's been a train wreck since I can remember. I have fucked up relationships with both my parents. I finally got out on my own, had my shit mostly together. Then a condom broke, she's keeping it. I've managed to cope the last 5 years by smoking a ton of weed every day. Not a good idea, in case you were wondering, but it was better than losing my job because I spent a week crying in my shower because I hate my life. That happened 2 years ago. My dad and his wife offered their full support, and I've been staying with them for 5 months now. I tried to get my shit together, to take courses and go back to school, but I have no motivation whatsoever. I never have, even when my future was bright and limitless. I'm a great employee. I've always been praised for my work ethic. When it's my own life I don't give a shit. When my maintenance inhaler runs out I'm too fucking lazy to get a new one until I can barely breathe. I'm barely able to take care of myself, let alone another human being. I never wanted kids. I hated the idea. I hate the idea. I don't have good genes. I firmly believe that life is meaningless suffering, then you die. And now I've inflicted this upon another living creature, my own daughter no less. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't want your pity or condolence or your empty promise that everything will be okay. No, it probably won't. Terrible shit happens to good and bad people all the time for no reason. Sometimes shit just gets worse, then you die. I don't want to bail on her though. My dad sent me to live with my crazy narcissist mother after grade 9 because the custody battle, my dad, and generally shitty behavior. It was taking a toll on him and his wife and her 3 kids. The abandonment fucked me up pretty bad. I could never do that to anyone. I couldn't do that to my daughter. To have her grow up not knowing her dad loves her. To not have a father to read her bedtime stories. I could never do that. I would be the worst price of shit I can imagine. I would not be able to live with myself. But the idea of having a kid makes me sick, and with someone I was not really into anyway. It's like I have the choice between getting shot in the knee or the gut before modern medicine. The knee will be incredibly painful, but you could survive as a cripple. But if you get shot in the gut, all you have to look forward to is a slow painful death. If I abandoned my daughter, it would be the death of me. But I don't think I'm strong enough to handle this. Every time I think about it, it feels like I'm being tough for the first time. I panic. I want to scream. I want to punch walls. I feel like I'm losing my goddamn mind. So I distract myself all the time. Books, movies, video games, anything. I'm staying with my dad and his wife who are trying to help me. They set me up with therapists, psychiatrists, job opportunities, a safe and relaxing environment. But I can't bring myself to do anything. I feel like I'm waiting for my execution. That was rambling and probably poorly spelt. I'm on mobile. Just needed to vent. Edit. Thanks for writing. Reading the comments helped. Also, I did stop smoking weed about 5 months ago. Regret is a difficult label to apply here. I don't regret the outcome. I very much regretted what it did to my life for many years. I didn't choose to have kids as such. I was an 18-year-old who didn't know how to broach the subject of condoms on the night I lost my virginity. I figured out the condom thing by the next time, but the deed was done, and within 2 years, mom was out of the picture, and I was a single father. I dropped out of school, tried to join the military for the sake of stability, but got kicked out for asthma, and watched almost all of my friends move away to college, while I tried to get by on $6.50 an hour as a PC tech. When my son was 3, I made another mistake, entrusting my girlfriend of a few months with the birth control. The girlfriend I found out had no ambitions other than being a mother. I can't say her forgetting the pill was deliberate, but I know she was less than vigilant. At least she stayed around, and we shared custody until high school, when our daughter moved in with me full time for a few years. The first 10 years were really hard, and the first 5 especially so. My financial situation slowly got better, but I was without close friends for years. I never blamed my kids and I love them both with all of my heart, but I hated 18-year-old me for years. I coped like you do with anything overwhelming like that, one day at a time. Thankfully, no matter how unplanned, parenthood does have its rewards. If it didn't, no kid would grow to adulthood without being strangled. Probably in the first month. I don't know what to say beyond that. There was no magic coping mechanism. I just kept going and hoping that someday it'd get easier. And it did. I'm 40 now, and both of my kids are adults. In a week or two they'll both be older than I was when I became a parent. I have no idea what my 20s would have looked like if I hadn't had kids. What helps somewhat in retrospect, as pessimistic as it sounds, is knowing that I'd very likely have accomplished less. My dad wasn't diagnosed until my late 20s, and I'd have had a difficult time of it in a 4-year college without treatment. I didn't have a lot of motivation and my work ethic wasn't the greatest. Maybe I'd have straightened myself out, but it's hard to say. Now I'm done with it, at least the child rearing part, if not parenting in the broader sense, and I'm still young enough to enjoy some freedom. Now it's small business ownership that crushes my soul. But through eventual success, bankruptcy, or cardiac arrest, this too shall pass. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel.